but unfortunately after a few months it's folded, and we got to take those 65 now, into our, or what for want of a better word, I call it cooperative, because it is a cooperative system and we work together.
And that's another village, is it?
Yeah.
It's another village which is about a mile or so from the centre, I think. But as I said, this fellow was like a little frog in his own particular pond. And he'd started the original food fund from the first week. We had a lot of publicity that he started the first soup kitchen, 20 odd weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want to join this larger organisation that he set up, which is incidentally is one of the best in South Wales, because we are able, with what little we've got, to bring people from such areas as South Derbyshire, down for a weekend. They bring the wife and children down for a weekend so that they can have a break from all this terrible trauma that they're suffering up there. Because we had people down last week, we took them to a barbecue. There were 15 miners on strike in South Derbyshire and 3,000 working. Well, you can imagine, what those kids and those women are going through, when they're part of a system, that they're in a very, very small minority. And, by bringing them back down, fresh faces, new scenery, we give them a bit of a lift. As I say, we are pretty efficient food fund, but as I say, we've still got to have this 3,500 week in, week out. And you can imagine that without the help of people such as yourselves, it's bloody hard going to collect that money locally, because the same people give in, week out.
So, where are you, if 500 is one of the biggest single amounts you've had, where is your 3,500 coming from weekly then?
It's made up. We were very lucky in the early days. I think one of these, the Neath Chamber of Trade gave us a very generous donation of £5,000, which helped give us a bit of a cushion in the early days. But basically where it comes from, if you put it in mind, my village has got a small village attached to it, and each and every week to raise £35 to £45 we have to run a raffle. So that means every week you've got to cover every single door, because and we're only feeding 24 miners, mate. Now, Tom, you're feeding 170 miners. Tom's particular end of the valley is feeding 170 miners. I could never afford to feed 24 miners, maybe 1 week. Tom could never afford to keep his, but this is where the system is, that we all do our fundraising and it comes into the centre at Onfling Welfare. So my £35, Tom's, you raise on average about £200, you Tom? His goes to the centre. So basically we get a bulk. I think we can call on about £800-900 a week coming in from the local villages, which is quite good when you consider the rate of unemployment that's down in South Wales and the rate of old age pensioners, and so we're getting the same people time after time. In actual fact, out of my two villages, I think we've only must have, if I've got 40 men or women working in full-time employment, I think 40 will be the lot for both villages. So you see, we're trying to take money out of our own areas where there basically is no money. Well, as you pointed out to me, and as we all know, London has money. So this is why London has become important to us. All the contacts we made in the very early days in London, we keep on getting a couple of pounds through from here and a couple of pounds through from there. But by and large, up until last Saturday, we were doing barbecues, summertime fetes and barbecues. But obviously now, with the change in the weather, there's going to be intense pressure on us to make up for those fetes, summertime organisations that we can't run in the winter. So let's just say, where do we get it from? We get it from, we send letters to people we knew when we were in school that maybe living abroad, that maybe living in other parts of the country, and ask them. We don't only ask them for £1, £5, £10, we ask them to ask their friends for £1, £5 and £10. And that's how it is. It's all very hard work, really. Hard work in the respect that we haven't got a system where we can say, put a pop group up in the GLC offices, as happened in London, and get a large amount in one go. But what we do is that we come to small groups to get small amounts of money, to be prepared to put ourselves out to come and get it. So whilst, we were pleased to hear from you, and we did have £500 from you, and it was a large amount for us, please don't think that we think that you came by that £500 easy, because we're aware, right, that you are under intense pressure going out onto the street for your own collecting from the Metropolitan Police, who by the way, we've only just come to know recently, and we, to say respect them is the wrong word, we hate them, but the main thing is we're afraid of them, because we haven't come up against any force like the Metropolitan Police at all. So we understand, right, if we send groups up to London, we send women's groups up to London to take the bucket out on the streets of London, they're getting moved on, they're getting harassed, and they're getting arrested. So when you go out, with your own problems and with your minor stickers on, you must be under intense pressure. So don't think at all that, we take lightly that you've given us £500 and that it's come off the streets of London like that. We understand what you did to get that money for us. But you can realise what £500 means. It means that we only had to find £3,000. Now, when we say fine £3,000, I'm glad Tom and I don't individually sit down and where are we going to get it from. All I can tell you is that each centre beavers away for a week at its contacts up and down the country, in and out of its own valleys. Someone has got an idea, we'll ask this, we'll ask the local church or the local chapel, and they all come in with a £10, they £15 and a £30. So I couldn't tell you exactly where we get it from, except for very odd occasions that we get a large amount, like the £500 that you gave us, or the £5,000 that we have from various councils. It's just a question of everyone beavering away at their own little end of the woods and bringing the money into a central fund for the central food distribution fund. We have got a women's... the funny thing, what we...
I think it's alright to just carry on.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
What we discovered there are South Wales miners are very how shall I put it? They're very hard on their wives. They never thought that the wife in South Wales, like with many years behind England, the wife in South Wales, except in a few households, like who had the accepted role of being washing the dishes and looking after the family. What we discovered very on in the strike, and I think it came from a comment that was made up in Nottingham area, that someone said, well, what's the matter with these Nottingham miners? They're afraid of their wives. Well, if you put that the other way around, if the wife is committed to the strike, there's no way the other girl's going to go back to work. So we got the women involved. I wouldn't say that we used the women or we said, come and do this. We got the women involved. We not only got the women involved in setting up using the women's intelligence, so when it's going around Tesco's, because I can't go around Tesco's to save my life. When my wife doesn't go, like it's chaos in the house. But what we do, we use them in every way. They're part and parcel of the system that we've got set up. Women take part in all the decision making. They take part in all the functions and in all the events that are going on. We've got a section of women going up next week up to the Durham University, and Ken Livingstone is on the panel. We've got women actively involved throughout the whole system within our own strike group area.
We're involved on the picket line.
They've been picketing at Port Talbot. They're completely involved into the system.
And Green and Common.
Yeah, that was a funny thing that we had a choir going up to Southampton in the early days to give a concert and bring some funds back. And a couple of the boys said, we'll call it Green and Common. Now, these are people that never thought about Green and Common except what they read or saw on television. And they wanted to call it 2 buses. So, Ken said to them, listen now, boys, we will call it Green and Common, but let's have no funny, comments and laughing and giggling and joking. Because I admire him for this. He said, don't forget that we've been out, I think it was 16 weeks at that time. We've been out for 16 weeks. These women have been here for a hell of a lot longer time than that, and they're likely to be here, for a long time again. And the funny thing happened that the men got off the bus. There were wives with them as well. They got off the bus, they saw what was happening there, and they got to the other side of the road and they gave them a concert. They gave them 3 or 4 songs from the choir. And there you had the funny situation of striking miners putting money to buy food for Green and Common women. And as an offshoot of that, now we had a march which started in our own village, from outside the Orphan Welfare to a nuclear power station in Kent, in Deal, is it? to a nuclear power station there. So what we did, we had our women starting the march and taking it in relays. It went throughout South Wales right up to this end of the country. So you see, this is how the miners' strike is basically the ignition to a movement within the whole country. Because to come back to the women in South Wales, I've got my views on this. I think that even the miners are going to have a shock that once the strike is settled and we've won, they're going to think that the wife is going to go back to wash the dishes. I think they're going to have a big surprise, like, you know.
Well, they're talking about forming a cooperative already, you know. They're asking questions of people, you know, who have been successful in forming clothing cooperatives. And they're in the process now, you know, of at the planning stage. So when the strike is over, we're going to get these big macho miners, you know, they're going to be in the house watching the kids, and the women will be out in the cooperatives making money. But it's all good. It's it's great for the system, you know, that the women have come in, you know, 100%. You know, I'm for it. I'm for equality, and the fact is that they're more equal than us now. To tell you the truth, they boasted last week that they stopped the lorries in Port Talbot.
When the men hadn't.
When the men had a bloody pasted, you know. I spent a couple of weeks licking their wounds, and women went down on a very impromptu session, you know. They were down there, the busload of them. They decided, you know, to go and picket. And they stopped the lorries because the cops are at a loss now. There are only half a dozen of them. But eventually, you know, they had reinforcements and cleared them off. But they did stop the lorries. And of course, you know, they're strutting around there now, you know, we stopped the lorries, which is a good thing. You know, I believe in it entirely. And hopefully, as I say, you know, that when the strike is over, that all these things will be ongoing, you know.
Yeah.
And another important factor that we can't stress too strongly is that we're not coming up here with our hands out and saying, you know, give us the money, you know, for how we'll do the fighting, etc. We are stressing wherever we go that we could have a cultural exchange. Quite frankly, you know, I've been up here two or three times, you know, and what I wanted basically was to twin our local town, Neath, with one of these rich, labour-controlled boroughs, so that we could have an ongoing thing, but also a cultural exchange, because we've got things going on down there every week, you know, that you haven't got up here, you know. Another thing, we come, not on Flynn because it's a bloody open cast country, but where I live particularly, it's a very beautiful part of Wales, and you know, we could take kids down there, you know, and show them a good time on the mountains and in the rivers, and we could have this ongoing thing, you see, and hopefully it has started, you know. We've been able to exchange, you know, a hell of a lot of people have come down from London, you know, and we've tried to give them a good time as we call it, you know, not going to bed till 4 o'clock in the morning. But
one of the ways we've been trying to obviously, this is all very good for the people that have become active in the strike. We find that once people are inactive in the strike, they sit in the house, they've got time in their hands, and you know, they don't know what to do with it. They're brooding, they're watching the news and the propaganda that comes over. So one of the things we try and do is to get as many people as we can involved in the actual organisation. It is difficult, but what we find is that once someone has if you like, done a little something, they become hungry for it. They want to do more. They want to get more and more involved. So it's a good thing. So one of the ways we printed our own little newspaper. We call it the Valley Star. Unfortunately, we have lots of problems with the printing because of the finances, you know. So it'll run for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it'll drop off for 3 or 4 weeks. So that's a problem. But I leave these 2 copies with you for the read, because this is what we put in each parcel, in each food parcel each week. As well as the food, we put the propaganda, right? We roll these up and we pass them into every home. This tells you what happens within our own minor support group. Another thing I discovered, you read on the back a poem written by a girl of 10 from my own village, Miss Swen. And during this strike, there's lots of things happening within the family, within the community, that men, women, and the kids of the family are writing poetry, which is something that if they did before the strike, they would never admit to. So we've certainly got something happening within the communities now. we found that within South Wales we do tend to hold grudges. Would you say that's fair, Ali? We tend to have wrong memories.
Well, we're still hillbilly.
Yes, yeah.
Well, you were telling us about the scab pub.
Yeah, how was the story about the scab corner in the pub?
Very
Sorry?
interesting.
Okay,
See you.
thanks.